Well, welcome back from fall break, everyone. This is Curtis. I just wanted to send some math block reminders. I came around before the year started when none of us really knew what was going to happen exactly or how the year would play out, and I think it's been every bit as crazy as any of us would have imagined, probably crazier. But here we are. So I know the time around was fast and furious, so I just wanted to send some reminders about how to use some of the materials that you have, or how you can use some of the materials you have to make sure that there's still sound instruction going on, whether the kids are in your classroom or whether you've been in quarantine. I've heard several instances now where classes have been quarantined. In one case where an entire school within our zone was quarantined for a couple of days, and it doesn't look like that's going to change in the near future. That's going to be the norm for a while. So we just have to continue to adjust. I know it's hard. I want to encourage you. I'm right there with you. I'm teaching classes too. I feel the same stress. I feel overwhelmed some days with the amount of preparation it takes to prepare to teach in this environment when your kids may be there, may not. And in my job, they're calling on a day's notice or the day of class, telling me they're not going to be there because they've been quarantined or they have a family member. It's just nuts. So we'll get through it though. I don't want to be a downer here. I want to encourage you that you have the resources you need to do the best job you can possibly do. And that's what this quick communication is about, just a reminder of how you can utilize what you have at your disposal. The slide you're looking at now, core instruction, just a reminder. And that the core instruction, of course, is the grade level on target instruction that you do. That's going to take up the majority of your day. It's the majority of what you're sending out to e-learners. It's the majority of what needs to be taken care of when kids get sent home for quarantines. Just a reminder that, and we said this at the beginning of the year, but this content needs to be hyper-prioritized. You already lost a little time last year. You're losing time this year. So we really want to make sure, and we've done this within the zone for a couple of years now, really focused in on what matters most. Even more so now, that is important. I can help you with this if you have questions about what to take out, what to eliminate, so that you can gain more time to focus on the things that matter more than others. Please let me help you with this if you have any doubts. But you probably know what to do. Just have confidence and do it, and focus on the things that matter most to student learning. The two tools you have for core instruction are Zearn, which we selected because of the situation we're in. It is, of course, a recorded delivery of core content with a focus on conceptual understanding. Its focus is not on long-term retention of prioritized skills. It doesn't have enough repetition within it for that, but it does a really good job of delivering the conceptual teaching, especially for your e-learners, but also in a classroom where kids are masked, and I don't know how they are at the elementary, but at the high school and even the college, they're more inhibited in their engagement. Advantage of Zearn, and the reason we chose it is because there are a high quantity of engagement points within the lessons. During the main part of the core instruction lessons, students are asked to engage, like on average within 4 minutes or 5 minutes of instruction, they're asked to engage about 10 times, which means they answer a question, and then within that question they're provided some feedback. That's really a high level of engagement that's difficult to duplicate even in a live dynamic classroom with a teacher. It's hard to get that much engagement. If you think about it, if you have 20 kids in your class, they're getting 10 engagement points in a stretch of about 10 to 12 minutes of instruction. That's 200 points of individual engagement. That's really difficult to accomplish by yourself. Let this tool help you with that under the current circumstances. And the engagement points are of high quality. Again, they're focused only on conceptual understanding, not necessarily repetition of skill. That's where you come in and the teacher-led stuff. So I would encourage you to continue to use this tool. So even if you have kids returning to the classroom, which you do, there's going to be a temptation to move away from it. I would stay involved with it in some ways because they're going, the likelihood is very high that there's going to be quarantine. You're going to be sending them back home, and if they stay plugged into this tool, then it's going to be an easier transition as they transition back home, easier to keep them engaged in the instruction. And then, of course, the other part of the core instruction is what you do. And I think in the teacher-led component, especially under the circumstances, you should have a focus on quantity and practice. So Students should be doing a lot of questions while they're with you, a lot of practice, repetition of the conceptual understanding that maybe they've already got through Zern, or maybe they will get in a follow-up through Zern, but really take this opportunity to give them lots of practice with lots of feedback. And this is the highest quality feedback they're going to get. That's why I think it's so important that you really turn over the learning to the students as they demonstrate, make their learning visible through problem solving. Simple problems, complex problems, doesn't matter. Just let them solve problems while you're there to give them high quality feedback. Don't forget, I think this is an easy one to let slip past, spiral skills or fluency practice. Now there are two layers to fluency practice. Within Zern or Eureka, there's the fluency practice that's contained within the missions or modules. That's good practice, but it's on core level. It's on the learning target, the current core level learning target. You also need to spiral skills from prior years and prior missions. Now you've probably completed mission or module 1 by now, so you need to be spiraling skills from there, but also you need to spiral skills from the prior year's work, especially under the circumstances where we don't know exactly how far a student got. We don't know if they were a student that checked out and didn't do much at all. So make sure you're revisiting prior year skills. I'm talking about single-digit and multi-digit skills. Not necessarily the other things like geometry, kind of the secondary standards, but those priority standards that just involve the math computation. Those are so important. You don't have time to go back and pick up all the conceptual stuff, but you can practice those skills simply just by providing practice problem solving, practice the worksheets, problems written on the board, however you decide to do it. And I know a lot of you use resources for this, but those resources may not completely align. With limited time, you really want to focus in on those high priority skills like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, those types of things, just and really with a zeroing in on what the end goal is. In most cases, standard algorithms are probably the end goal, so you want to focus in on practicing of those skills during this time. It doesn't require a ton of time. 5 to 10 minutes per day is all we're talking about for this type of skill practice. Ideally, this would be differentiated to your learner's needs. By now, you probably know where they're at in their prior prerequisite skills, so it'd be a good time to start breaking that up if you can. I know that's difficult. I'm actually working on a resource that's going to help with this. It's not ready yet. I don't know if it'll be ready this year. I wish it were. I wish I'd have started working on it earlier, but ideally, if you can differentiate to students' need at that time, that's the time to do it, so that each student in your classroom will have at least this time of their day that they can be productive in learning. They may spend most of the core level time lost in your scaffolding. You're doing, your great teacher work of getting the content to them and scaffolding for success. But this really should be a time where they're autonomously practicing skills that are at an appropriate developmental level. And then, of course, don't forget problem solving, so important. This would be an easy one to throw out during especially for e-learners in the current situation. Of course, there are problems included in the Eureka Zern materials for missions and modules that are on target, on core, aligned to that mission. That's great stuff. It's good practice. Problem solving is not something you don't really master specific problems, so don't focus on that. Just focus on exposure when it comes to problem solving. Giving them the problems, allowing productive struggle, providing timely feedback so they know when they're right or wrong, on track or off track. I also still highly encourage bringing in off-theme problems. This is how you develop good problem solvers. You take away the scaffold of them knowing what they're working on in the current mission. Bring in something from prior years or prior missions so that they really have to engage at a higher cognitive level and think and become good problem solvers. Incidentally, these also become good test takers, and I know we want good test takers, but the end goal really should be good problem solvers who are going to be successful in life and future educational endeavors. That's pretty much it. So I just wanted to remind you of those few things. Core instruction, again, just run through it again. High priority, call me if you need help with this. Make the best use of your resources. If you're still questioning how to use any of this well, especially Zern, I know there were some questions out there. Send me an email. I'd be glad to get on a Zoom session with you and really show you why I think this is a good tool. I don't think it's a good tool. I know it's a good tool. I know it will work, and I can explain in more detail why I think that is. Don't forget the spiral skills in. It's an easy thing to overlook, but it may be the most important thing you do in this environment. And of course, don't leave out problem solving. My contact information on this slide, most of you should have it. Feel free to call, text, or email anytime. I'll respond as quickly as I can.